Sanje Chita Sochi Chana Lo Chanchu Badu Dani Yasu Dagu Chijin Jive Tsona Je Drola Benje Sanje Dru Shu Sanje Chita Sochi Chana Lo Chanchu Badu Dani Yasu Dagu Chijin Jive Tsona Je Drola Benje Sanje Dru Shu Sanje Chita Sochi Chanchu Badu Dani Yasu Che Dagu Chijin Jive Tsona Drola Benje Sanje Drubo Shu La Dang La Me Dang Ming Ji Yang Bo Da Jia Jian La Su Shi Ji Shu La Shu Wa Che Ban Sanje Sumba Ra Du Xi Xin Di Re Ju Ju Ba De Be Jie Jie Di Be Qin Jin Jin Di Re Xi Xi Di Be Jie Jin De Ren Jie Sa Yue Di Ju Ba Jin Jie Che Ba De La Shu De Da Jing Gui Ba Di Be La Be Nian Jie Su Jie Sun Sa Yin Wen Min De An Be Da Ni Le Ba Tu La Tu Be Sun Nian Jie Na Ma La Ye Ka Ta Lu Da Ni Jing Zhu Bu Da Da Me Ka Na Na Zhu Wa La Yu Ka Na Ma La Qi Na 탐제 다그 가도 다그 쳬던도 라다 님 다고랑 가도 마시나 삼대선라 왕주 자오데 샤나 요메리야 안보시当然그 미발에 꾸내주 리순 레소르베 대진전 대다시에나 나연 안보나 나연 자좀 띵띵 진도 땡 전에 소하나시 전에 다 가상 관이 삼대 시와니 아니 가소래 신내다 딱 주고 아인 바래 야 삼대 셈라 아니 이나 파진 추근나 게 아니 삼대지 파진 시전에 좀 셈 아니 제지 봐라 인자 삼 인의 조건배 아니 셈랑 그 왕도 뒤에 셈라 왕주대 삼대 셈라 왕주 자오대 아니 샤나 유메리 안보신 아니 셈야 르바신도 장데 아니 셈미발라 제지도 잖아 아니 슝거라 소와게 인와 메바 아니 이 안보신 아니 양 당나 아니 가소래 개미바 꾸나 주바 오 텐더위 아니 셈미발라 제지도 내와라 때네 타르 아니 리스 신장 기대와 템바쳐봐 샤는当然给李顺来说认为这些真是我听着为俺那三天给攀岩都写为过来等到在他写呢俺那那就我告诉咱们说那边那就那俺那他我听着为三天几定义真的俺那觉得点过来真的他就是我一般人。
Oh yes, so now in this portion of the text, as it says, here, if one makes one's mind single-pointed, that is, one develops concentration, this form of meditative concentration which is able to remain single-pointedly fixed on the object that one places the mind on, then one's mind becomes like the king of mountains, like Mount Meru, completely stable, fixed single-pointedly on the object of meditation without coming under the control of dullness and agitation. And in that way, if once one develops this, one produces, one gains control over one's mind. When the mind itself comes under one's control. And that being so, then if you apply your mind to any other kind of activity, any virtuous activity, then you'll be able to accomplish that easily with the mind under control like that, stable, single-pointedly placed. In the context of the meditation practice, you achieve the single-pointed concentration. And then when you arise from that, other kinds of virtuous activities that you wish to engage in, you can accomplish easily. And then once one develops single-pointed concentration in that way, that kind of meditation stabilization, then out of that arises a kind of flexibility of body and mind, which induces great bliss. Both the mind and the body become extremely blissful and flexible, which flexible here means workable. They're able to function as one directs them without resisting the kind of the direction that one wishes to, the way you want to employ your body and mind, they'll function that way. And so once one has developed that kind of special blissful flexibility of body and mind, then one has accomplished this kind of single-pointed meditative concentration which is a specific kind of meditative concentration, which is called shamatha.
Oh yeah, that in Kasore, Kazam, Yage, Seminary, Takuladang, Anita Kasore, Ani Semibala Teju Nevaki, Ani Sinegi, and Bashindu, Ani Pata Jang, Anita, Tar, Ani. Oh, Mibala Chita tended to Yabachapi, and she young sipping it to give you in town. That and the Randrenala, Tetar Jamba less. Condo 7 give me what a Chita Tetar Jamba le. That large Chinashi Chungsiana. Oh, Daniel, Della, that did tame by the castle. Tuba Deduji, and Chachutella. 我送我当我这吧，你也别天天不的，天人得了，你他不我送我得了，今天说真了，要上我看个讲，早你早完了，马这长些少我当，首先看对呀，马上吧，当上那个得不当，这样吃个话，谁的打天不的，这样吃个话，我就签证了是吧？哦。 Tetar Jambes, Sasame Yage, Sim, Ani Sim Yung or Sashi Riba, Tanshi Sashi Ribatella, Ani Tabo Jobadang, Ani Jundu Jobadang, Ani Rimba Shindu, Ani Jambala Dene, Ani Yamshagung or Kangajam Madriba, Sim Korangung or Yamshagung or Kangajam Madraba, Tanshi Shindu Sawatang, Sushanjung or Kandoyam Madrube. Majube Tombe, and Majube said, Majuba in Donsan Nagatabutan Java, Ilas. Yang Sangaji Yunga Segana, Ane Yido Waki, Ane Sudraso Atang. Yido Mio Waki Sudraso, Sangaji Yu Chichuyang, Melon Tambala, Sunyatar, Sati Gavar, Jiang Chave, the making was Sundan Chave, Namchawa. Tendravi tingin de chidar dayang anita tatema chaba chele ongul lisum ji singjang gi de masim pado ane desu jeji bares singjang gi de tumbana ane shines dugres ta rande de bar
So thus, this leads us to the next topic in the text, which is explaining the way in which once one has done this practice, what appears at the time that the results of the practice occur, and that has two subtopics here. First of all, it's simply identifying the way in which things appear when one achieves the result of the practice, and then there's the actual introduction to that, And so this is on page 186 of the Zindri, a transcript commentary. And then that refers back to what is said in the root text, verse 24, where it says that whatever kind, the character of whatever kind of meditative equipoise, stabilization, is unobstructed, clear, lucid and clear. It's not established as any kind of physical thing whatsoever, and because it's not established as any kind of physical thing whatsoever, it's like a space, which is a vacuity, and whatever appears, it is vivid. That's the root text. And then the auto commentary to the root text. This is on page 84 of the auto commentary. It says, therefore, by maintaining that meditative stabilization, this is referring again back to the development of shamatha through the course of the 9 mind states, starting off by initially placing the mind and then gradually developing it so that one achieves a continuous placement of the mind and so forth through the 9 stages. And then once one does that, then the character of that kind of meditative stabilization, or here we could say meditative equipoise specifically, is such that it's not obstructed by anything whatsoever, and not being obstructed, it's lucid and extremely clear. That's one facet of the character of this kind of stabilization. And then since it's not established as any kind of physical thing whatsoever, it's a vacuity similar to space, and it's like space. And also, because whatever arises, whether of any of the kind of five sense objects, whether they're good or bad sorts of sense objects, they appear vividly, similar to the way an image appears in a mirror, which is completely free from any kind of dirt or obstacle. It's a mirror that is completely lucid and clear. So these sense objects, whether they're good or bad, they appear to that meditative concentration in the similar way that things appear in a mirror, which is a mirror that's very clear. And when that occurs, when you develop that kind of meditative equipoise, then the experience of that arises such that it's free from any kind of identification of the objects appearing in it as this is that or that's not this. That sort of differentiation, the experience is free of that. And then when that kind of once one develops that kind of meditative concentration, no matter how stable it might be, if it's not governed or kind of dominated by the bliss of the flexibility of body and mind, which was mentioned earlier, then it is called a single-pointed mind that belongs within the realm of the desire realm, and that's not actual shamatha as such. But then when it is governed by or dominated by that flexibility of body and mind, then that kind of meditative concentration is actual shamatha.
Oh yeah, that digi dewa ma shi de la. Da ji zhong zhu da kong de xia ban de kong de chen ne. Ani so shi zhong zhu ya ge ani tenpa nyingpa dan, tenpa sapa dan, ranzam zhongzhu, ani ranglu zhongzhu, ani xia xie dar jiangpa, dan ne tu songwa le. Dili da tanda, nyangxia ngo kangke jiang se te la, ani nyangxia rang, nyangxia ge ngo karere da, ani sem sari te la, da mibi, dingi ti ti ngo ni, kangke jiang ma zhiba tangxi sawa tang. Te, 아니 수전 강도야 맞추배 아니 동상 아니 나가다 보자 아니 차오라 나가다 보단 자와라 유도 지춘양 차르베 시계 원내와시 사시계 원내와시 임베스 드디 아니 다 가르쳐 가나 드디서 강라야 이미지 뇌성 체비 또바다 마차양 아니 가서래 샘고랑 자유 샘 특장기 아니면 라바시 아니 차그레 라비냠시 차그레.
So here then the transcript commentary on page 186 discusses this, and it says that thus once one has understood the general ways in which one develops and maintains meditative stabilization, as discussed above, that is all of the varieties of developing mindfulness newly, having mindfulness that has already been developed, preserving that, and then the ways of doing it that were enumerated that are accepted and held by other traditions, all of those. Then once one maintains this kind of meditative stabilization according to the particular way that it has been explained here in this particular system, and one's maintenance of that meditative stabilization goes to the essential point of that, then the character of that kind of meditative equipoise is, and then here he's commenting on verse 24, is not obstructed by anything whatsoever. It's lucid and clear, and since it's not established as any kind of physical thing whatsoever, it's similar to a vacuity, or it's a vacuity similar to a vacuity similar to space. And whatever object appears to that is something that exists in a very vivid fashion. It exists like that. And then at that time, because that's the case, at that time, although it's not, here the commentary says, although it's not separate, devoid of thought, mental construction, which is functioning to identify it as this or that entirely. It's not entirely separate from that kind of mental construction. It is an experience that, a sort of rough experience, or an appearance of the rough experience of the mind being isolated in a sort of in a separate and isolated in that way. That is focused specifically on what we mentioned previously, the clear and cognitive or clear awareness aspect, character of mind.
Oh yeah, that is 지리안의 가서를 유당 유지 처벌이 양에서 셈생각에 요즘 오점 리발라 셈당 아니 유지 처벌이 비차네 아니 셈주샤고 와래 와 요즘 오자 리베 셈당 유지 처벌이 베게 셈준 세이당 아니 전에 네 가서 아니 미자 가서를 미제니가 아니 셈제주고 셈나 자야이당 와 미제당 안에 셈지체 셈 미제당 안 셈나 자고 줘와 가서래 디안 미제 제주도 슈바인 와 다탄다 토면에 셈사를 그 셈데 아니 셈사를 그 사실을 병오 여장 와란도라 아니 디 미샤와 파도 남도 그 주와 주마샤바 여와 인장 아니 남도 그 주마샤바 되게 듬냐 아니 셈코란 게 라라 아니 무슨 미자라라 무슨 도 미자와 되니 셈네 마 좀디 잠바 림바 신도 아니 셈게 인와도 저바 신도 마사 차니 아니 타르 아니 셈코란 게 오데 아니 마주 싸워도 차야 돼 셈네 주데 마주 바 차르베 셈게 나와야 주디 잠바더니 오담 셈공오 마주 바 난도 그 마주 바데 차르베 디 마주 당신 싸워탕 세 대균자들이
So then here in general, when one is talking about mind, or one could say, when one was talking about awareness or mind, here, if one can distinguish this in terms of the object, and as far as the particular characteristics of the object within those, if one talks about a simple awareness of the mere object, then that's called a mind or a primary mind, and an awareness of the particulars of an object is called a mental factor. A mental factor. So that being the case, here as well, since one has entered into single-pointed concentration on both on the thing to be observed as well as that which is observing it. Here, this is referring, since one, in this kind of meditative stabilization practice, one is using the mind itself, and particularly the clear and cognitive nature of the mind as the object. So the mind is the observer, and the object that is to be observed is also the mind, the character of the mind. So that is the general characteristic of this type of mental stabilization practice. And although it's the case that beginninglessly, one's own mind has had that character of being clear and cognitive, clear and aware. Throughout the beginninglessly, the mind has been continuously interrupted by, or the movements of thought have continuously operated within the mind, and because of that, clear, aware or cognitive character of the mind has been obscured, such that we don't see this. We ourselves don't perceive this through direct perception. So here then, where it says the movements of thought, that would refer also to like the operation of dullness and agitation within the mind, or other forms of thought activity functions so as to obscure the clear and aware character of the mind. And so that's why this doesn't appear to us directly, although it's been there all the time. So when one achieves the stabilization of the mind, here this is again referring to the 9 stages of development of meditative, single-pointed meditative concentration, leading eventually to shamatha. Then when one does that, the clear and cognitive or clear, aware character of the mind appears without any kind of obscuration or obstruction, and therefore here it's said to be unobscured or unobstructed, lucid and clear, that phrase from the root text. So what that's referring to is that when one achieves the 9th level of meditative stabilization, one has been able to eliminate the activity of thought, the movement of thought within the mind, and also pacify all of the functioning of the mental factors of dullness and agitation. Those have been stopped. So therefore, in this particular kind of practice of meditative stabilization, where one is taking the clear and cognitive nature of the mind as the object that one is observing, then that appears directly to one in that condition.
Oh yeah, because similar to the Madriba Chave. There Madrid Tansi Sawa, Sepena Semne Gabata, Zibi Negala. Ani, or some Korange, or Ani Namdoki, Ani, you are doing my Kateki, my Malabaka. You China, I didn't go so Namdok, you are China young, Ani, or Katsore. Semne chuji Madriba Chayang, Madri Tansi Sawata, Nam Chawa in Zang, Tinega Tenta, the Kasore, Nimbo Zoe Danguari, Chungu China Yang, Ani, Tambata Shishin Charaki, Zowako, Tansi Sawa. That didn't march, you got a Zibi Semne Guati, Semne Guaki Negasu, Nabajobe Negasu, Ani Tension Namadam Mogova, Japan Negasu Tension Namadani. Guani Tension Navara Madayang, Semi Toba Ranshuji Droshin. Jela Major, Jelam Tamja to Batar Nayang. That is Xinjiang Matoba Yinzang. Any Xinjiang Matoba Yinzang, any Seminam Goa, the Sunji between the Mato Tadun, any Sinatoya Maris, Xinjiang Madonna, Tadun, the Sunji by Yimbe. Any the best Simganani, any some that says about the day. The Sunji by Yimbe, Goati. Sineti Negaso, any Sinet Gendu, but some Yinji, Maris.
So here then, so for example, during the 8th mind state, when one is developing shamatha, that single pointedness, there, when one is using the mind itself, and particularly the clear and cognitive character of the mind as the object that one is observing and focusing on, then when one achieves that, then this appears that appears to one in this unobscured way. And so that line from the text, being unobscured, lucid, and clear, can apply to that. However, during that time period of the eighth stage of development of meditative shamatha, then one has to employ exertion to maintain, from time to time at least, has to apply exertion to have one's mindfulness and introspection active to prevent the arising of subtle forms of dullness and agitation. So therefore, then when one has conditioned oneself to that, habituated oneself to that, and then eventually arrives at the ninth stage of the 9 mental states of shamatha, there one doesn't need to employ the exertion that one previously required to be able to have mindfulness and introspection operating continuously. Rather, through the force of habituation, the mindfulness and introspection operate without effortlessly, and thus one achieves that single pointedness. And thus, that being the case, one achieves this mind which is free from mental construction or free from the activity of thought. Automatically, that absence of the mind being free from mental construction or thought occurs automatically, and also then, although it appears at that time that one is able to do whatever one wishes to do without any kind of impediment. Any kind of activity that one wishes to engage in or whatever, because one at that point has not yet achieved the flexibility that we mentioned earlier of body and mind, then still this is a type of single-pointed mind which is still included within the mind states that one finds within the desire realm. And that being the case, this is something which is said to be it is accordant with actual shamatha, but it is not actual shamatha itself.
Oh yeah, Anita, Kasore, Rashu General, Chinja Mato Sine Chinduba, Mares, and then Tenant did Yamshago also at the Semna Guginane, and Yamba Shoba says, and Sungo and that, Tejipa, Yamba Shoba say, and Semna Guatella, Yamba Shoba so at the Yamshaki Sai Chinduba Maro, Yamshaki Samares, Yamshaki Sala, Come, Esse, do what go Yamba Shaba. Yamba Shabi Satan, Yamba Mashabi Sas, and Yamba Mashabi Sas and the best dua. Yamba Shabi Sas and Commerce dua. Yizan Dindadi, and it doesn't take you but Yamba Joba, Sumate, Yamshakung, Sumate, Yamshakasa, Jindu, but some see what it is. Yeah.
So here then, that's the terminology here is such that on the ninth stage of development of shamatha, in the process, is called technically equipoise. Now here there's a problem with terminology that I can't solve at the moment, but effectively what it's saying is that the kind of equipoise that one actualizes is single-pointed, and it is extremely stable and so forth without any kind of alteration. But it's still included within the mind states that one finds within the desire realm, because it is not yet governed by the kind of flexibility of mind and body that we mentioned previously as well. Then that sort of single-pointed concentration or state of meditative equipoise is not the actual equipoise, which is included within the kinds of meditative equipoise that one finds in the non-physical realms of meditative equipoise, as well as the the so-called form realm and formless realms of the non-physical and the physical. The realms of meditative equipoise where there's still physicality present, and the upper realms where there's no physicality at all. So this ninth stage of the 9 stages of developing shamatha is not actual shamatha. It's a kind of meditative concentration which is similar to shamatha or accords with actual shamatha, but the actual shamatha is only that which is achieved when one achieves the first of the, here it's called, again, equipoise, that are found within the states of meditative equipoise that still preserve some degree of physical embodiment in their expression. So it's here, then this, in the text here, it says the character of meditative equipoise. And this is the sub-commentary is explaining that this is counting that simply because it is it accords with the level that one achieves the actual meditative equipoise, which is beyond the desire realm entirely.
Oh yeah, that day la kasore lusumni lesumuru sekala lu kewi chawala kodu mirumade lujinenga leda. Semiranga Gavi Chavala, Gordon Mirumade, Annie or Seminanga Leche. Utendavi, Annie Lusumji, Langa, you would have tribe, Annie Shindu Lesurumi, Annie Nangi Lusumji Chinese, Annie Shinjango. There is.
So then, with respect to the character of these two kinds of flexibility, we're translating it here. Two forms of it, of body and mind. Here, there's both the body and the mind have sort of a portion of them which makes them, which in their ordinary state, before one has developed this kind of flexibility, which the body and mind have portions that make themselves unsuitable for being employed towards virtuous activities. That is, they sort of make it harder for us to apply ourselves to virtuous activities. And so each of these portions of body and mind are called technically they're called the unserviceability of body and mind. And here, in this stage of actually developing shamatha, when one develops actual shamatha, since that mind of shamatha is free from those two kinds of things that make the body and mind unserviceable, make them unable to be employed towards virtuous activity, then here, being free from that, then the portions of the body and mind, which make them suitable for doing what virtuous kinds of things that one wishes to engage in, these that is the real character of the two kinds of flexibility here.
Oh yeah, ani mi bala. This is the Nava Shabala, go to Romadang. Simi Bala, and this is the Navala, go to Roma de la Les Roma, Rossi. Tenny, and it thing is in Semia, Chekana, Semla Navy, thing is in, and it's Casot, Toma Yabane, and it Chatamori Juyang, and it Tinagaso, and it's Tawa Yezang. Ani rang rikawa tawa rikalas. Chinese Zoxing是他定义自己Chinese Zoxing大把来为新疆这边爱的，ani他年赛了送人的去的Chinese Zoxing大把来为新疆的这边爱的，来把几盘吧，要么切把几行是，这几把是等 가서 지와 태양 밑에 지와 멤버 밑에 지와 멤버니 안에 된다 빼라 될 거야 근데 안에 드라마 샤를 간라 안에 고 참모 송와라 안에 라바 매 식부 매라 쇠네 안에 렘바기 냠다고 총용 송 냠다고 총송
So here then, with respect to the two forms of flexibility, body and mind, physical and mental flexibility, that has to do with being able to direct the mind and the body and employ it for, in the case of the mind, to focus on virtuous kinds of objects and virtuous activities, and likewise with the body. So one gets some degree, some tiny portion of that kind of flexibility of body and mind as soon as one has initially obtained meditative concentration. But because that's the portion of it that one obtains at that stage is so slight and subtle, it's very difficult. It's difficult to recognize it, and once one has developed this kind of flexibility of body and mind, such that they're complete, all of the characteristics of them are complete, and they're easy to recognize. Before one actually develops that fully developed form of it, there are signs of it arising within one. And an example of the signs that are that show that this is happening is this is given from the Shravaka Bhumi, the stages of the Shravaka, and it says that one's brain feels heavy and numb. There's sort of an experience of where one feels like one's brain is heavy and kind of numb. But it's not an unpleasant kind of heaviness. And the example that's given to show what this sensation is like is that in the winter, if you've had your head shaved and your head becomes very cold, then you warm your hands up in a fire, and then the experience of the warmth that you'd feel when you put your hands on your head, in that case, is similar to the sensation that one experiences from this, as a sign for the arising of this kind of mental and physical flexibility.
아니 인가단 저 전에 차서 가르에서나 토마 카무카마 인가라 차 아니 되네 아니 지워라야 강가르비차지 지워라야 아니 도스마 이런 마시는 지워라야 친데 차고와 인자 뒤송고 인제다 토마 체베 인가 지워 전에 체베 아니 리페위를 봐야 아니 림베스 리페위 림베 아니 지워 전도 상와 인베 지부 전도 상와 인베스 이 심신장 dembi 아니 지위용 레스용소 아니 텐다에 따지 싸웠단 말이에요.
So then a very clear sign of the body becoming very flexible and workable, such that it's serviceable so that you can apply it to activities that you want to, is that when our bodies develop, like in the womb, our bodies develop from when they first form. This is when the red and white elements are come together, and the initial gametes go together to form the first stage of embryonic development. Then the heart develops, and from that the head sort of expands upward from that eventually, and in accordance with the sequence that the body develops in the womb, fetus develops. Then just as the head develops in an upward fashion, then similar to that, the way in which the wind the wind within one's head, which which brings forth this kind of flexibility and when that wind becomes serviceable, then because of that, this kind of sign it clearly arises, the sign that was mentioned above of the kind of heaviness and sort of numbness of the brain.
Oh yeah, then that 女配乐人被就我前途上完，安尼他什么新疆这把给用来手中啊，安尼来手中啊给大的下呢，来手中啊呢，但你他妈他，安尼告诉嘞什么新疆见呢？俺来有什么新疆给你要的，但你新疆人给那什么新疆的俺来结果的，他妈他安尼什么来手中啊，什么把那过度中啊给安尼什么新疆见呢？ 但呢，旅行家这边用来水用啦，是呀。旅行家这边用来用，来吃饱个了，但呢，旅行家来水用安尼，我告诉你，来吃饱，就把那安尼旅行家的叫法的。
Then, so the sequence of these two forms of flexibility arising is that the mental flexibility arises first, and then after that, the bodily or physical flexibility of the body arises subsequently. So as soon as that sign has appeared, then and once the mental flexibility has arisen, then the wind which brings about the bodily flexibility becomes serviceable, and because it flows flows such that it pervades the entirety of the body. Therefore, then that gives rise to this bodily or physical flexibility of the body.
Alright, ani gewa chawa la ko do ruma gi lu xinjiang ge ani dewa de pa jian ne de jie la sem xinjiang ge ga ani de jian ne sem xinjiang ge ga de qianbo nyam sun ani ga de nyam qianbo chung de jie so ga wa qianbo de ga wa qianbi jue bi ani ma xi wa sem ma xi wa o ma xi wa dan zhe wei ani xin ne dan ba de ani 蛋白质脱白的，大女生新疆个种。
马西瓦当周围新。
马西瓦当查哇，什么西瓦？马西瓦。
So then, after that, once the physical or bodily flexibility arises, then because that flexibility of the body gives rise to bliss, physical bliss. Then, and here this is meaning that the body is extremely workable, is serviceable for whatever to employ for whatever kind of virtuous activity one wishes to engage in. So that physical bliss within the body arising, then the mind also the flexibility of the mind produces so then the mental flexibility within that there's a great experience of delight within the mind that arises. And then after that, then subsequent to that, one obtains a very stable kind of shamatha, which is not disturbed by the great joy which has arisen through the development of mental and physical flexibility.
Oh yeah. 新疆脱路就可能得到人把是，到新疆脱路的了，得送到的钱钱了。俺你旅行新疆你见哪呢？俺你什么新疆俺来见呢？旅新疆接来接我的。对我你见哪呢？旅新疆给对我的俺来见呢？什么新疆给对我的？俺你接来接我。
So thus, the way in which these arise is that the mental flexibility arises first, then the bodily flexibility. but it's the bodily flexibility, which the achievement of that, which produces this special kind of delight or pleasure. And then that pleasure induces joy, induces mental pleasure and joy. So the sequence is in that way.
근데 인다 신앙이 오라 간데세레서 셈나위 탑굴라 때네 랑게미 발라 시다 된데도 냠바 조비 아니 리심 신장게 대외 셈비 아니 등에 진에 제쇼고 하래
몰라
셈네가 그 탑고 콘도 샤바 그 탑굴라 때네 랑게미 발라 안에다 디가서 이나 사실을 봐그 셈다 미바텔라 치다 된데도 냠반 조니비 아니 리스미 신장기 대외 셈비 아니 등에서 지라 신에서 오 리스 신장기 대와 토바다 신에 토바 뒤냐바.
So thus, the specific kind of meditative concentration which one is developing here, as we mentioned, going through these 9 stages, 9 mind states, developing them sequentially. And then once one has developed the mental and physical flexibility, once that arises, and one's meditative concentration is in a sense governed by that is held by that mental and physical flexibility, then that is the achievement of shamatha.
Oh yeah. 니네 녀도지 뒤에 냠샤게 사도 토바 송바 신에 토바 아니 녀도 토바 공사시와 토바 뒤에 냠바 송바래 냠샤게 사와세 뒤에 냠바 송바당 공도 대선 제집이 아니 제집바데 sem냥 구와 sem냥 대선 제집바데 신장게 남 sem바나 아니 신에 공을 좋아 신에 토바 송바당 양 신장 조바를 토마토 지권에 아니 신의 주장 토마토 지권에 신의 주장 다동 공부 첨부 메나스 야 안들로서요.
So thus here then, so that's the sequence. Actually, when one develops the mental and physical flexibility, as mentioned, when that's completed, then that is simultaneous with the achievement of shamatha, shamatha as such. And then once one has done that, then there are it is said that one has newly attained the stage of meditative equipoise, which is included within the approach to the first dhyana, the first meditative concentration within that still contains some degree of physical embodiment. And, however, that previously, when one, so it says then, so that's one statement, and then likewise, when we say that the single-pointed mind of the desire realm, once that is again dominated by flexibility, then it is said that one has attained shamatha. So it's 2 different ways of saying, or two different points about the same thing, and so thus. So then the question of whether or not one has completely obtained or not of the flexibility is and in that way, then even once one has developed shamatha, one needs to continue to practice a great deal of meditation, and if one doesn't do that.
Oh yeah. 다 대소야 되라 양신장 조바 토마도 신의 토비가나 리심 신장게 대와 토바레디 양신장 조바 토바당 신장 조바 토마도 지까지 신의 토장 신장 조바를 마도 많아 마도 버대지나 신의 주장 다동 공부 첨부 매나스 라 아니 참아 매바당 나와 토바 매바당 녀와 주와 숨 아니 숨쉬면서 참아 주단 차와서야 돼. 어디 숨쉬면 참아서야 돼. 가르세래서나 아니 수소 용아 수자 트롱아 아니 용아 이동하다 용화기 용화기 아니 참아 나다. 아니 대사세당 또 무슨 제 참아 제세 참아 숨체 아니 참아서 개체 아니 개와다 표면이 참아 니데 아니 다 참아 주 저거가 주승화래 아니 주라 세신 저 로라 참아서 나나 수자라 소와기 수자당 두선라 소에 참아서 나나 아니 되게 예미 태네 아니 라마 되게 로제스 미장와 아니 지안 미선바 줘봐라 아니 공수 개바기 장 아니 참아 주어데 나와메 바디 안 주그리 나
So here then, now, even if one is trying to develop shamatha, and so the distinction is whether or not one has developed to the full extent the flexibility of body and of mind and body that we've discussed. So if one has not developed that, then one definitely has to continue cultivating. One has to continue developing one's meditative concentration in the direction of shamatha until one has fully completed the kind of flexibility of mind and body that we've discussed. Now, if one doesn't do that, then there's no way that one can develop the three sort of levels of meditative concentration, which are called with signless, without any sign, without non-conceptual, and thoroughly pacified. These are three terms of three sort of aspects of special forms of meditative concentration. So with respect to the first of these, that is the signless, here the signs are the signs of the five objects, which are visible forms, sounds, smells, odors, tastes, those five sense objects. And then there's, so that makes five. And then there's three signs of the three poisons, desire, hatred, and ignorance. And then there's two signs of male masculinity and femininity. So that makes altogether 10. And so when one has developed shamatha fully, and developed especially the shamatha to the full extent, developed shamatha, then when those signs appear to one's mind, one will recall the negative defects of following after the signs, of being attached to them, and one won't follow after them, and then one will be able to develop a great, powerful kind of meditative habituation, which is able to place one's mind such that one doesn't think about them in any way whatsoever.
Oh yeah, that's the thing that Joba Madowa Tedala, Lola, Ane Sudala so the Tamaso, Nana Yang, Ane Tegi, Ane Dingin Padu Jabada. 아니 무슨 시장기 때와 잡아라 파도 잡아라 서와기 이미도 마 태네 아니 강차만 나와지 제수 마장와 아니 지안 메선바라 줘봐라 공식 제배 아니 담보 참아도 나야 안 나와대랑 시도와 인장 다 나와 매바 주주대 대인바라 담보 참아도 나야 소라도 참아도 나야 공기 예미 태네 아니 로데 티 제수 마자와 지안 메선바 줘배 아니 참아도 나와대랑 시도와
So the way this works then is that here, once one's developed that kind of meditative stabilization, then here these signs will appear to us, the visible forms and so forth, the sensory objects, these three poisons, the signs of them appearing to the mind, the marks, signs of male and female will appear to the mind, but by recognizing and remembering here the word is mindfulness or remembering, recognition of the defects of following after these signs, then that will make it such that they won't disturb one's meditative concentration, and one's mind won't follow after the signs, chase after them, but instead one will develop a special kind of force of one's meditative cultivation, so that one will be able to keep the mind placed such that it is not thinking about anything, thinking about those signs anyway whatsoever. And when that occurs, then although the signs appear, because one doesn't follow after them with one's thought, they will disappear on their own. And thus, this is what is meant by the way in which these signs become non-appearing.
어디 다 신장 조발 토바 테네 아니 냐바 샤바나 수달라소베 참아 쪼데 가야 마샤라 로 미샤와 아니 셈 리팅 사바당 데싱에 와tam지 아니 나바 바식 차르바
So that's referring then to what's happening in the post-meditative phase, when all of these signs of the sense objects and the three poisons, male and female marks and so forth, those are appearing to the mind. One won't follow after them, and those signs will sort of dissipate on their own, and therefore one won't be disturbed by them in any way. One won't follow after them in thought. And then when one enters back into full-fledged meditative equipoise, since the signs won't appear at all in that state of meditative concentration, then what will appear is simply the aspect of the mind's cognitive and clear and extremely lucid character. That alone is the aspect or that aspect of the mind is what will appear to one's meditative concentration.
아니 미바드 아니 사시 르바달라 샤베 아니 사시 르바디 뇨위 뇨난 태양 아니 출라 추보 총아 따르 양양 제신 아니 제가 제사 대가라로 아니 가소래 뉴도 템바기 냠지 차야지 냠도 냠 차려 와대 아니 여기 남도 매바 주주도 되는 말이야 그래 참만 매바다 남도 매바 녀와시와 숨주이나나
So then, with respect to the way in which the absence of conceptualization arises, the non-conceptuality arises, it's subsequent to that, is that when one places the mind in that state of not thinking of anything whatsoever, that kind of meditative equipoise, then within the context of that experience, what is appearing within that experience, one will have So the appearance of that one is experiencing there, again, is the clear cognitive nature of the mind, that character of the mind, and that will appear such that similar to the way that bubbles bubble up within water, that will arise over and over again. And then they will quickly dissolve back into the place from which they arose, and so that sort of experience will dawn within one's meditative concentration.
나도 매바 주주인체 다도 안에 공투샤바 나신 양바에 아니 시와 코랑게 뇨레당 아니 리섬 신장게 대난게 되니 아니 체도 까봐 마인바 샤마타네 아니 심바 표바 나신 저 바바 표바 나신 전에 표바 신도 아니 다음에서 봐 아니 봐 라시타도 drodes 대 카르레사나 대와다 뇨르 차르 소마레스.
So that then is the way in which the mind becomes without conceptualization, without conceptuality. And then once one now continues to maintain the meditative equipoise as before, then without So then the awareness that is one's experience, as well as the appearance of bliss, which is here referring to the mental and physical flexibility that we mentioned previously, that form of bliss, without having to stop them deliberately, without needing to make a deliberate effort to stop them. As soon as they arise, just like bark falling off of a tree, they'll sort of dissipate. They'll
대나다 뉴르디 체도 까봐 마인바 샤마도 심바포서 봐 도고 알아와 테너와데 미스바 나시 땅 미스바.
So they 랑시 다도 줘.
땅 미스바 랑시 랑다도 줘데.
땅 미스바. So the awareness that one is experiencing, as well as that appearance of bliss, not being able to bear being cast aside, they will become peaceful on their own, and they will become pure on their own, and in that way. Then one's bliss and one's experience of awareness will become much more subtle.
Oh yeah, that didn't it? Sonyaba Shabese, Arana, Chabese, Ranula, Soviet, Navaka, Rangi, Lugla, Sovaki, and Yamshaka, Navakaya, Michava. Lula Dembi, Midevala, Sobe, Sem Nevaki, and a Pacha Mishapa. Pacha Mishapa is Semda Naga, Yemeto Sawata book, Yam Chashing. That dinala, Inga Tedo, Jagab Juma Tabi, Ordering Tesamji, Chazuja, Yajans, Jagab Juma Cup, Jagab Juma Tabi, Ordering Tesamji, Chazu Yajang, Yanshaga some women, Jiji Teda Juma, Yodoji, Tembe, Tanya Doji, Yamsharan Dusing Maris.
Yamsharan Dusing Maris. So
Yamsharan Dusing Maris, Jeji, Jedoganagas, Yamshaganagas, Nandu Teda Chuma in our Jamba.
So here then, at that time, while one is in the state of meditative equipoise, since it's the case that one's own body and so forth won't appear in any way whatsoever, then one's mental stabilization will not be able to be interrupted by any sort of discomfort that is dependent upon the body. And then likewise, the mind, one will have an experience of the mind such that it is similar to space, and that the mind will become such that it becomes similar as to being undifferentiable from space, and then at one's heart, right at the region of one's heart, it will have an experience of sort of like a small sprout standing up, similar to like a small needle that's being raised up at one's heart. And although all of those things will occur, this is something that one will understand when one has arisen from that meditative concentration, not during the course of the meditation itself. That is, it'll be recalled when one has arisen out of that state of meditative equipoise. And one will be able to recall those things through the force of one's experience, that they arose in that way, through the force of one's experience. And because of that, they're given these kinds of designations. They're designated in that way, but it's not the case that one will actually ascertain this during the course of the actual meditative equipoise itself.
Oh yeah. Tani tanyamsha tela lamba na ani lilubu di chunga tawa ki nyam charwata. Ani 제단 라 소바기 아니 차당 저 남도 제와 남장 nga당 예민자와 아니 숙충아 숙현바다 아니 대한 깨나야 아니 귀름부터 귀천부터 미도봐 귀틈미도봐 대대 냠제 감남니 다 냠샤다 제도 감데 아니 녀월 쉬와 세디 참마메 바다 남도메 바다 녀월 쉬와 세디 다 냠샤다 제도 가라서 또 샹기도 와 녀월 쉬와 쉬어를 집에 가인데 야.
So then once one arises out of that state of meditative equipoise, you'll have an experience as if your body is sort of like suddenly appears, as if it suddenly reappeared or appears. And likewise, the various kinds of thoughts of anger and so forth, even though they'll arise again, it will be such that in a way which they totally dissimilar from the way they arose in the past, because their force will be extremely weak and they won't be able to endure for an extended period of time. And so this way of when one achieves that kind of meditative equipoise, as well as the kind of experience that one has after that kind of meditative equipoise, then this is given the name of a complete pacification. So we mentioned there's the three things that one develops once one has actually developed meditative equipoise: the signlessness, absence of thought, and then complete pacification. So this is the third of those.
Oh yeah, they said we didn't da. Never sure to go you back in the career, Sanam Chawala, and you Sawala, Sanam Chawala, Tibasoji, Dudan, Chang Tubak Cheta. Never too bad, and Nikitan, Dingaji than Drawaki Namchua. And Milam Lacan now Cheta down, around the Yam. Nyam kare chanaya ane chajete rangache ane karso chewa daji ina ane ngewa drubam tiba sari tengire ngewa druba o milam ke nanzo dang nyamji chajota chana tiba juro se te chana kaa nanzo de chewa de ane chewa de druba la o tiba juro deda sujen le miba le ta o sem sawa la sari chala miba ki Didani Sujan let me ballet cashubi, some Sari Sujan me ballet chajubi, so make a similar maybe number metal by chachu. Any some tamatella, Minashin and Drubaki, any goblet number metal by chazu, any Tomek in Yasa Combanashi, any don't combat that race.
So then with regard to this state in which one has actualized this complete pacification, here the experience of the clarity of the mind is extremely powerful, and it's as if one is able to count the number of particles that one sees in a wall. It has that kind of clarity, one's mind has that kind of clarity. And then as far as the stability of the mind is so heavy, so strong, that even when one's asleep, one has one thinks that my sleep is mixed with meditative concentration. And then when one dreams, one is able to has the ability to evaluate all of the things that one is dreaming, and then whatever kinds of experience one has throughout everyday life too, one is able to completely grasp the measure of what that is, the way in which the experience arises. And so this way of using the mind as the object of observation, the clarity and cognitive nature of the mind, is something that a mind which is non-physical is much superior to any kind of observation of a physical thing. And so this is the way in which one develops the kind of non-conceptual state by using the mind as the object, the observed object in the course of the meditation practice. And this is presented in accordance with the thought of the Shravaka Bhumi, the stage of the disciple of Master Asanga.
Oh yeah, that did it. They can't sort of that did it. Chijilo, staging, but what did it? What did it? Chijilo, the Chijimaloba, you banana. Then what did Chiji Loba della? Tata Simji Chini, Musum Taka Tom Mertang. This is soon the Dendu May. Kansha Zime Lubaton. Then the Sanja Bajanso, Debe Tanga, Yinoshi, Tensan Kari, Gomjamba, Pajo Gomba Chik to draw. Said this in body. That delight. No. Rande Gaso, Lam Dini Rangung or Gwana Chindrashon water Chena. Meva, Tata Simji Chini, Musum Taki Tom Merjang. Musum Taki Tom Merjang. Oh, you can't say that. This is soon she tend to make Kansha Zime Super Joe. Then is Sanja Bajan to Debi Manga, you know, she said, Tibarisha.
So this leads to the next subject, which is here there's the two ways of identifying the mind, and these are subdivisions of this is a second topic within the topic that we were just discussing, which is the way in which the meditation experience arises at the time when the result has been achieved. And so there's two aspects of this identification. This is sometimes called pointing out or something. I'm using the term identification. I'm sorry, I got confused. I'm using the word introduction to translate what is often sometimes translated as pointing out instructions. Introduction, like introducing, when you introduce a person to another person. So first is given an incorrect way of the introduction to the mind, and then there's the correct way, which is accepted by the author of the original texture. This is given in verses 25 and 26, and it says, "Thus, regarding the nature of the mind, although one sees it directly with insight." It's not something that one can apprehend, saying it is this, and it's not something that one can show to others. And one should placing the mind loosely, so that whatever arises is you don't apprehend. This is the way in which this way of doing this introduction is described. And then the verses continue and say that nowadays the great meditators of this land, land of snows, mostly proclaim this with a single intention. And, and what they're proclaiming is that this is the instruction, the special instruction, which places the Buddha in the palm of your hand.
Oh, yeah. That's it. Some Chinese said, and some good of Chinese don't want to joke with some Chinese said, there should be Jaga Mama so scary Chinese, and so pure that Jaga Mama so. Oh, and so Gary Chinese. That lovely like so on, I say, oh, Chinese Chabashin. Congo Chaje Tetayang, and some good of Chinese, some good of Chinese tennis. Oh, Chinese tennis, Musum do 20 Zamle, Hag Tom Mejang. Tom Mejang, number middle bag, Yanshan do, she Musum by Yin, number middle bag, the was Musum Mejing. Jedo do, and the Sujan, Yawale, Shan, and that's some then to Mebadang. Sujan Yawa Nashi Jenny, Sujan now Yawa Nashi, and it tend to Meba, Sujan and Yawa Shala tend to Mebadang. The Tomne, and the Kansha Zimba, other Meba. Kansha was the Zimba other Meba, and it's Huba Joba. Oh, and it's Chinanigi Tumongu, and that's yes. Some Sagisan, Sine, Tobachi, Nayan, Chinanigi Tumongi, Chinanigi Tumongu, Homi and then G70, Homi and then G7 Chibi, Sine, them Chachitanam, Junse Tonas.
So here then, now what is expressed here, and with respect the verse 25, where it says that although one sees the nature of the mind in a superior fashion and directly, I translated that a little bit differently previously, but I think that's a better translation. Thus, although one has seen the mind, the nature of the mind, directly in a superior fashion. Now, what is the nature that is being referred to here is the term here in Tibetan is chuni, or dharmata in Sanskrit. There's a lot of words for nature, but this one refers to like nature in a kind of unspecified way. Here it's referring to the phenomenal nature of the mind. That is this clear, aware character of the mind. So the commentary here on this sub-commentary on these verses says, moreover, with respect to nature, it is the nature of aging, that one's teeth fall out, that one's hair goes gray, and so forth. These are the nature of aging, and so that's this is drawn from the Lamrim also, where J. Rinpoche uses the term nature in a similar fashion to refer to phenomenal things as well as ultimate things like emptiness. So here then, this the special features that were mentioned above with respect to the nature of the mind, these are the phenomenal nature of the mind, and not the ultimate nature of the mind. So even if one sees that phenomenal nature of the mind in a way which is superior than understanding it simply through conceptually, that is, one gains some kind of direct perception of this nature of the mind, it's still not the full meaning of the nature of the mind, which is to be developed within the context of this particular practice. So the author then says, so
응수 매바 인신 제도도 응수 매바 인신 제도도 수전 따르 아니 녀와 현라 된도 매바.
So now, if you're seeing the mind in this way, through a kind of meditative stabilization, and you're looking at the mind, you're having a perception of it. That is, it's a non-conceptual cognition of this phenomenal character of the mind. Then that cognition is not conceptual. So that being the case, then it's something that one can't apprehend within, one cannot identify within the context of the meditative equipoise by saying, this is this. One can't specify it as this because it's a non-conceptual experience. So, and then likewise, in the post-meditative state, it's not something that one can show to others, similar to the way we experience physical things. We can, based on our physical experience of physical things, we can demonstrate them or show them to others. And then once one obtains this,
아니 투몽기 고미연대 신내로 쓰네 친한이기 투몽기 고미연대 연대지 샘된 체바 고미연대 그 샘된 용어실에 써왔다 그 샘된 체바기 신내 잠지 체제 되는 아니 란줄라 토밤 주사 통한 나스 아니 텐자와데 아니 가서래 섭시 죄자여서 두마체 세바기 아니 텐자와데 내 샘지 군조위내로 통화되라 샘지 내로 통화세되라 아니 내루타도 통화 무슨도 통화 조심 개발된 리전 신장기 대화 개발된 아니 라메그 조준 템보기 아니 템보기 대화양 라메기 아니 대화기라 투니 라메지 조준 템비出시 쏘네 종준 대단히 아니 사자 바장수 때에 당아 인호시 아니 대상의 가르쳐줘 공제바 차바 취지 충아 파지 아니 공바지기 샤를
So here then, this is saying that once one has obtained this, and once one attains that kind of perceptual cognition of the conventional character of the mind, one apprehends it in a way which one hasn't previously. And therefore, one's able to place, and then one thus is able to place the mind on it in a solid kind of fashion. And this, I'm sorry, this sentence here is very long.
지난주기 투몽고 관련 고미연대 이샘된시비 신의 점지 체제되는 와 신의되게 안에 지난주기 투몽 3대 6무시 대 지난주기 투몽기 고미연대체 뒤 3대 7기 요와 인장 와 지난주기 투몽기 고미연대 이샘된 집이 신의 점지 체제되는 안에 여바 통화나 주사 통화나스 안에 다지 베지 뭐가체 안에 섭시 저자지 제대 내루 타동 모습도 통화 조심 잘못하면 영수도 봐봐 아니 리신신장 그 대화 태양 라메기 아니 여기 행지기 대화 준비 대신에 봐 아니 출시 손에
Okay, so then some people, once they've experienced that, had that kind of experience through they've developed a kind of shamatha, and they've been able to recognize and to see the phenomenal character of the mind, its clarity and aware nature. And however, this kind of mental stabilization is that which is common to both outsiders, non-Buddhists, as well as insiders. And merely having that degree of that kind of meditative stabilization, specifically shamatha here, and seeing the mind, the phenomenal character of the mind in that way, is they think these people who have made this mistake think that they posit it as a direct vision of the ultimate way in which things exist. That is, they consider it to express the meaning of the statements that we find in the sutras, where Lord Buddha has said that the character of the mind is profound, is peaceful, and free from conceptual elaboration. So they place that, they posit that sort of direct vision of the phenomenal character of the mind as if it's adequate to explain those passages from the sutras. And then likewise, and especially, they take the experience they have of the bliss of bodily and physical flexibility, and they consider that to, they erroneously consider that to relate to the elevated levels that one achieves during the completion process of unexcelled yoga tantra. And then nowadays, the author is saying, that is Panchen Losang Chögyam Gensen is saying, nowadays here in the land of snows, a lot of these great meditators proclaim that, and they say this way of maintaining the mind is the special instruction which places the Buddha in the palm of your hands. They proclaim that, and what they're doing is actually they're proclaiming this to others, but what they're doing is mostly exhibiting the kind of ideas that they have, which arises from a lack of familiarity with the Dharma.
Oh yeah, 아니 가서 당가 이 노스 대상 가르를 지 공전바 차와 취지 총 파지 그 공바지 그 현라 조신스. 我听着为安尼到공부原点대다. 지난기 도몽기 아니原点그 대세배 신내 잠대서 신내 대장. 대잠지 대양 내중 그 창조 그 섬지 세나 내중다 창조 그 섬지 세나 아니 텐로라 산장 집에 개자양 아니 태와 집에 남도 주에 주에 디양 공주샵이 대달 삼내 신지 지원도 샤나니 다 때지 차래 아니 그 개자 공주샵이 시작되다 신지 내중 장점지 양도 주 심바다지나 아니 태와 침벽이 아니 남도 저 용그레스 신지 지원에 샤나 중세 차 매장 대달 많이 봐 신지 그 관에 마샤 봐 등저 코랑 그 오이 관에 아니 야게 가서를 내려도 무슨 통화다 아니 진장 그 대화 아니 소름기 라면 그 소름 텐데기 인제 많아 대달 많이 봐 등저 코랑 그 오이 관에 인제 대달 뭐하니 로바데스 다 치지 로레스 친한 그 켜봤잖아 켜마셔봐 친한 켜봐 니담지 초벌소네 아니 람 미소와당 산제 칸라세 마셰바 둘라라 샤비치리 테나나바 미도바 니담시니 내루타도 토미 초나야 메도 송하며.
So now, with regard to that, if that kind of meditative stabilization, that shamatha, which is common to both Buddhists and non-Buddhists, is the meditation itself is not specifically Buddhist, but if that is itself, that kind of meditation is governed by renunciation and bodhicitta, then if one with that it creates a root of merit as much as giving a morsel of food to an animal, then that kind of meditative concentration can become a path within each of the different individual vehicles, the Shravaka vehicle or the Pratyeka Buddha, the Hinayana or the Mahayana. If it's governed by renunciation, then giving a bit of food to an animal with that sort of meditative stabilization would be a Hinayana kind of practice. And if it's governed by bodhicitta, then it would be Mahayana. That being the case, however, here, if one thinks, and if one thinks in that way, and understands it in that way, such that one performs this kind of shamatha meditation with renunciation and ideally with bodhicitta, then it would be a bit better. Understanding shamatha, that kind of shamatha, as referring to the profound the profound understanding of emptiness, which realizes the way things actually exist, then that kind of misinterpretation of shamatha would be somewhat better. However, here, not doing it in that way, that is having renunciation and bodhicitta governing one's meditation practice, and if one thinks that simply this kind of meditation, this kind of meditative stabilization by its own nature is adequate, then that is wrong. Such a person who's saying that simply stabilizing the mind on the clear cognitive nature of the mind, which is the phenomenal character of the mind, if they take that as meaning that one is understanding the ultimate nature of the mind, the emptiness, which is profound, which is clear and free of conceptual elaboration, then that's a large mistake. This comes from not being able to differentiate between non-Buddhist and Buddhist practice. And if one holds it in that way, saying that is satisfied with mere shamatha, which does not have the proper qualifications applied to it, then one won't seek out the path, the actual path, and not understanding what the Buddha is, what a Buddha is, then one will think it's something that's very easy to accomplish, and then and in that way, then this mere level of non-conceptuality, that being the case, this level of non-conceptuality is not even doesn't even belong in the side of the ultimate nature of things, the ultimate way things are. Of seeing, it doesn't belong even in within the purview of seeing the final nature, the final way things actually exist.
Oh yeah. 萨西北极修仙麦多庄。